Hi, welcome to our next video in our understanding what Hex is. So just a quick recap. Going right back to the very beginning, we've started at the essentials of wallets. So understanding what wallets are in the cryptocurrency space and how they work, how they store the security information, how we protect that information with our seed phrases. And we took that one step further to have a look what coins and tokens are, and even further to understanding what a smart contract is and how smart contracts are deployed on a platform such as Ethereum. So where we're at now is we're just taking that to the next point and understanding how all that applies to the Hex ecosystem. And we'll have a quick chat about the Hex smart contract, and then we'll delve into some real life examples of how this works in practice. So first and foremost, the Hex token is a smart contract launched on Ethereum. So as we said here, it's deployed as a smart contract. In actual fact, the smart contract address is this here. Don't get too hung up on that now. I'm going to show you how you can actually find that and what you can actually do once you know that smart contract address and the location. All right, so let's jump in and have a real life look at how this works. So first of all, let's understand how we can find the Hex smart contract. So if you're unsure where to go initially, CoinMarketCap, it's a place that most people in this space are familiar with. It's a coin ranking site. We've already discussed this in a previous video. But with CoinMarketCap, once we click on Hex and have a look at the details of it, firstly, like I mentioned, we can see that it's a token. And if we hover over the Explorer link, in the bottom left hand of the corner, we can see it pops up a link to Etherscan. In actual fact, it links us out to Etherscan and shows the actual Hex contract address. So we can see the address of the contract, and we can see the details about what's the total supply, how many addresses are in use, and how many transfers have actually happened. Plus there's a whole range of other information down here that we can delve into that are specific to the Hex smart contract. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll revisit some of these in a moment, but let's have a look at a basic use case for Hex when we start working with projects like Uniswap. Okay, so why do we need to know the contract address? So firstly, let's just copy this contract address and we'll go have a look at the Uniswap interface. So we touched on this briefly in a previous video, and this is a decentralized exchange, which is really great. It means we don't have to ask permission to be able to interact with this contract. It's deployed on the Ethereum public blockchain, so by virtue of doing that, it's accessible by anyone who can call the functions of the smart contract, which is the Uniswap smart contract. And we do that by using this user interface. So in this instance, if we wanted to swap, say, one Ethereum and we wanted to swap it for a particular coin, we could search on here and find a coin, basic attention token, which we've discussed previously. However, Hex is pretty new and it's not shown in here. To be honest, there's a little bit of gatekeeping and censorship going on at the moment on the Hex project. That will change with time, but Hex is still very new, so that's okay, because Hex is a smart contract deployed on the Ethereum network, and Uniswap's a smart contract deployed on the Ethereum network, so we don't need their permission. We can paste in our smart contract address, and it means that we can then interact and swap Ethereum for Hex direct on Uniswap using this interface to interact with the smart contracts. Now, as I've shown before, we have to have a tool in between this interface and the smart contract, and that tool is MetaMask. Okay, so taking this one step further, how does this actually apply to Hex? Okay, so just like Uniswap does, Hex has a main interface, so the user can interact with the smart contract in a more elegant way. In actual fact, Hex has more than one of these, but we'll delve into that in a moment. So the Hex GUI, the front end, the graphical user interface, uses the MetaMask wallet to communicate and bundle up transactions and broadcast them to the Ethereum network to interact with the Hex smart contract. So let's have a little look at how that works in practice. So you can see here, this is the Hex main user interface. Okay, and we've got a big warning popping up saying that if you want to use the features of this site, this interface, you need to connect your MetaMask wallet. Now we already have MetaMask installed, but we're going to log into that. So this is my dummy account. So we don't have any funds on this account, but that's okay. We don't need any for this example. So we log in and instantly we can see that we now have MetaMask connected. So therefore that warning message has disappeared and we can start to interact with the Hex smart contract. So expand this view. Okay, so here we're looking at the MetaMask wallet interface, and we can do that via two ways. We can, as you've seen, we can use the smaller version here, or we can expand that out, and the expanded view looks like this. And what I wanted to show you is similar to what we've done with the Uniswap interface. If we need to add a token here and we search for a token, we can see a list of tokens there. Once again, Hex being new still isn't listed by default in this interface, so it's important that we understand if we want to view our Hex balance in MetaMask, we can click on here and there we go, it's already populated there, the smart contract address, and instantly it goes off and queries that contract address and returns the ticker symbol being Hex and just a bit of more detail about the token and how many decimal places it's divisible by. And then if we simply go next, we can add Hex to our wallet. So if we had a balance of Hex there, it would now show. We don't happen to have a balance there at the moment, hence why it's showing 0. Now, just on that point, there is a way we can do that automatically. So let's just hide this, and we can actually click on this button here in the main go.hex.win site, and it will bring up this screen where it's interacting with MetaMask, and we can add the token that way. So now when we go back and check out MetaMask, we can see that the Hex token has been imported, this time with the correct icon. So just so you understand that there is multiple ways you can bring your Hex token into the MetaMask wallet, and understand that if you can't see it somewhere, whether it's in MetaMask wallet or it's on your hardware device's main interface, so like a Trezor or something like that, you can always just go and grab the contract address from Etherscan, copy that contract address, and that will allow you to add these things to your MetaMask or your wallet. Okay, so we've said now that we can now communicate between this front end interface, this user interface, and the smart contract because we've hooked in MetaMask. Now let's just jump back to the Hex Smart Contract again, because there's a few things that are good to understand. So the Hex Smart Contract has been deployed on the public Ethereum blockchain, and when you view the Hex Smart Contract, you can actually look at the functions that are available in the contract. So you can see these are all functions we can call and interact with the smart contract. Now let's have a look at a specific one, just so you can make the link between this interface and the smart contract. So there's a function down here called XF lobby enter. Okay, and that is exactly what we're calling when we click on this button here. We could put in 0.1 and okay, we don't have any Ethereum in this wallet, so we're getting an error throw up, but just for our example. So what we're actually doing here is we're putting in the amount we'd like to enter into the AA lobby, and we'd click on enter. And that is the equivalent of putting in an amount here and writing to the contract. So I hope you can see that we don't need this flash interface. This is very nice from a user perspective, and it presents us with a lot more information. But if this site were to ever disappear or go down, we could still interact directly with the smart contract, calling these functions directly on Etherscan, which is pretty cool. It means we don't need to rely on anyone else's permission. This is deployed on the network. It can't be switched off. It's just going to run, and we can interact with that whenever we choose. So it's good to understand that and know that there's no central body that's controlling Hex or can switch it off. It's just there, publicly deployed for everyone to use. Okay, so I think that's pretty cool to understand how the Hex contract works, because then we can start to have a look at the next evolution of where this is going. And this is not just related to Hex, but this is related to the DeFi space in general. So we've got the Hex smart contract sitting on the Ethereum network, so publicly deployed, accessible by anyone. That doesn't mean it's just accessible by users using this interface. It means that any other smart contract can call the functions of the Hex smart contract. So just like we were able to call the Uniswap functions, there is other front-end user interfaces that have been created for Hex by members of the community that perform the same role as this original user interface to interact with the smart contract. So there's this one in particular, and I'll show you the website in a moment for this one. There is a number of games that have been created on top of the Hex smart contract. So these are other smart contracts that call the Hex smart contract and use some of the really cool features, the interest earning side of Hex, the staking features within Hex. They call on those features and implement them into their own smart contracts and games. We've got the Uniswap decentralized exchange, and there's many others that are out there as well, where they can all start to integrate. So these Lego building blocks can all start to build an even more impressive ecosystem in the DeFi space. So Hex is just one of these components that's DeFi ready, live and working, and can interact with all the other DeFi type projects that are out there. We've got a whole raft of community created staking tools that help you manage your stakes and or enter the AA lobby on a dollar cost averaging basis. Sorry. So there's all these really cool features that have been built by members of the community and are calling the functions of the Hex smart contract. And look, who knows where this will go? I know there's a lot of projects that are being worked on in the background that will further interact with the Hex smart contract. But as a whole ecosystem, the whole DeFi space, this set of Lego blocks that are being built, we really are only just touching the very tip of the iceberg in terms of where this is going to go and the future of decentralized finance. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that. So let's have a look at some of these other projects that have actually already built out things on top of Hex, just so you can see in real life what these are doing. Now, I'll preface this by saying I don't endorse any of these projects, that you need to use them at your own risk. Some of the smart contracts that have been created on these projects may or may not have been audited, so that's a decision you need to weigh up when you choose to use these particular services. But let's start with another Hex, which is just the front-end interface, very similar to go.hex.win website, which was this one here. But this is just another one that's been created by a member of the community, so that should this site go down or be taken offline, there's another way for people to interact. So there's all sorts of features that this person creating this site has introduced so that the Hex community can benefit from expansion of the ecosystem. Then we have games that have all been built using Hex. Okay, so once again, I'm not endorsing any of these. I don't understand the complexities of these and the intricacies of each of these games, so I can't recommend them either way. If you do choose to participate in these, it's at your own risk and you need to do your own research. But it's just interesting to have a look at how these Lego building blocks are all coming together. Okay. And what you're not seeing in the background is this site is just asking to access my MetaMask account. So once again, these nice Flash interfaces, they still require the MetaMask plugin, the wallet, to be able to interact with the Hex smart contract. And then we've got another one, Hex Lotto. Once again, I don't know the specifics about how this game or project works, so do your own research on this, but it's just interesting to see how all these cool things are being built by members of the community that extend upon the functions of the base Hex smart contract. So they take some of the cool features that are available in the Hex smart contract and tweak them and deploy them in I guess a wrapper of their own smart contract that allows users to interact with the underlying Hex contract in a different manner. So really, really cool to see things like that coming about with the ecosystem. And I think that is just going to get better and better. All right, I hope that was a really good roundup of how smart contracts work and specifically how they apply to Hex. Now, we've tried to keep that at a pretty high level. We haven't gone into great technical depth on smart contracts and all the technical intricacies of how they work, but I don't think you need to do that to participate in this project. It's just good to have an understanding of, at a high level, what smart contracts are and how they piece together, how these Lego blocks all fit into the broader ecosystem, which is built on top of Ethereum. I think there's some really cool things going to happen in that space over the coming years. So Hex is a brilliant way to get an understanding of the DeFi space. It's a great project in its own right, but I think being part of that broader ecosystem is going to be absolutely fantastic for the whole Ethereum ecosystem moving into the future. Hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll catch you in the next video.